I'm Ben Pugh, and you're listening to Impact Parenting with Perspective. This podcast is all about helping parents manage the mental and emotional drama that comes with parenting teens so they can focus on what's most important, building rock solid relationships and having a powerful impact on their teen's life. Join me each week as I dive into real tools to help you and your teen turn struggles into strengths. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Courtney and I usually talk for a minute before I hit record. Sometimes we even talk about like what we're going to talk about. Today, I was like, I have a good idea. I'm just going to hit record. Courtney, keep up. Courtney has no idea what we're talking about today.
I know, it makes me nervous.
I have friends that are very... So, have you ever done a Myers-Briggs personality test?
No, but I think my sister and I were talking about doing it, and I don't think it ever happened.
Oh, I love Myers-Briggs. When I was a high school principal, this was the best training. I still keep in contact with most of my teachers from back when I was a principal. And just the other day, one of my teachers was like, remember when we did that 2-day Myers-Briggs training? And I was like, yeah, that was my favorite. They're like, that was the best educational training I've ever been to. And I love Myers-Briggs. I am an ENFP, which means I'm kind of more extroverted. I like one of the ways that they describe ENFPs is that they don't know what they're thinking until they start talking. Like I have to talk to process things out. Deb is like the opposite of me and likes to have things planned out. But one of the things about me is I'm really good at attracting people that are the opposite personality.
Mm-hmm.
And they always tell me like, Ben, I love hanging out with you, but you always make me anxious because I don't know what you're going to do. Like, I don't know what's coming up. And I'm like, neither do I. It'll just be fun. Let's go. So,
Oh, gosh.
so Courtney has no idea what we're talking about, but I'll give you a little sneak preview. It has to do with a story about my time as principal, a story about my football team that I'm helping coach that we just got our butts kicked the other day. And a powerful concept that I don't feel like I've ever taught this, but I talk about it all the time. So this is probably a concept that we haven't talked about on the podcast yet. I don't even know what we'd call it, but basically, well, I'll just lead in with this story. Courtney, are you excited for whatever we're going to talk
I
about?
can't wait.
One part excited and like 3 parts nervous.
No, I trust you, and you'll fill in any gaps. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. So we'll start with a story. Back when I was a high school principal, the first year that I took over as principal, the state came in and they're like, hey, your last principal didn't do all this stuff. Your school was under review. You are on the verge of being shut down. Here is a list of 117 things that you guys need to fix. I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 100. And this document was like 500 pages. And I'm like, seriously, you expect me to read all this? Anyways, so they give us this thing of like 117. That's the number I used when I told this story to my football players. But anyways, they're like, hey, you got to fix all these things or we're going to shut you down. Fortunately, we were also being reviewed for our special ed services. And they're like, hey, how many of your kids that are in special ed that have graduated have gone on to hold down a job and work in a job? And our school was really small. So I was like, well, let's just survey all of our students and find out. It was like 0% of our graduates within the past 10 years had jobs. Now, we live in a unique area where some of these people get dividend from the tribe, so they could totally live off of dividend.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely normal to live with your parents until the day you die. So like we're just factors. But when we talk to our students, we're like, hey, If you have had a job and you no longer have a job, why don't you have a job? And they're like, oh, well, I just got in a fight with my boss, or I yelled at a customer, so I got fired. The other reason they didn't have a job was because they're like, oh, I slept in and just didn't go to work. And so they fired me for some reason. Or I was constantly late. So they fired me for some reason. And we identified two common themes. It was either their behavior that kept them from keeping a job, or it was their attendance that kept them from keeping a job. So we identified those two things and we're like, hey, we're going to change our grading system. We're going to focus on behavior and attendance. And the academic portion is just 1/3 of this pie. So we graded them 1/3 on behavior, 1/3 of their grade was based on attendance. So 33%, 33%. And then because everyone loves academics, we're like, fine, I can have 34%. But when we focused on attendance and behavior, our graduation rate went from 55% up to 88%, and our suspensions went from over 200 a year to less than 20 a year. And people are like, yeah, but you weren't actually teaching them anything because you're basing their grade on attendance and behavior. Well, our SAT testing, or ACT, I can't remember which one we do out here. Anyways, that went up. Like, our students learned more. Anyways, fast forward to yesterday. We were watching film with this freshman football team. I'm the head coach of the freshman team, and then I still get a help with varsity. I didn't want to be head coach of the freshman team. It kind of just was thrust upon me, but whatever. We got our butts kicked, and it was one of the worst football performances that I've ever been a part of. It was following one of the worst practices I've ever been a part of. And we only have 16 kids on this team. So it's not a big football team. And in the game, like, we had kids that just didn't want to play. Like, our offense would go out onto the field and we were missing two linemen. And I'm like, bro, like, you're supposed to be in there. And he's like, oh, I'm not feeling it right now. I'm like, we need some. Anyways, so I'm sitting here watching film for this ugly, ugly loss. And there's like 117 things that we need to fix. And I'm talking to my wife and I'm watching film, and even my 10-year-old was watching a little bit of film. And I'm like, they're not even trying. And I'm like, oh, well, that's effort. And it came up over and over. They're not giving good effort. Well, then the other problem was there were plays where the kids didn't know the play or they didn't do what they were supposed to. And in football, we call that a lack of discipline. And so, anyways, we go to watch film, and these poor freshmen, they all think I'm going to yell at them, which I'm not really a yeller as a coach, though I did come unglued on one of the refs because, anyways, we're sitting there watching, or we're getting ready to watch film, and I tell them that story. I'm like, hey, there was a time in my life we had 117 things to fix, and it was just super overwhelming. And then we identified two things to fix. I was like, guys, I watched your film. Guess how many things I noticed that we need to fix? And they're like, hundreds. I'm like, 117. But I've boiled it down to two things. And then I put them in groups. I'm like, what do you think those two things are? And so these little 15-year-old dudes are talking in their groups, and they're like, oh, what do you think they are? One group came up with discipline and listening, and the other group came up with physicality and effort.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is perfect. Like, I didn't even lead them into this. They just talk and came up with this on their own. And so I was like, no, this is great. Could it be possible that physicality could go underneath effort? And they're like, yeah, totally. I'm like, could listening go underneath discipline? And they're like, yeah, totally. And I was like, what else could go under discipline? And they're like, knowing the plays. Like, they just started talking about this. And we went from, like, that film was bad. Like, there was one play, we had one player do the right thing, and we had 10 other guys all doing the wrong thing. And we're like, or nothing at all, which is still the wrong thing. Anyways, It would have been really, really easy to get overwhelmed and think, man, how are we going to address every single problem that we have in our football team?
Mhm.
But when we shifted the focus, like when we started watching plays, the kids were like, oh, that's just effort. Like, even if we do the wrong thing, if we do it with 100% effort, the play will still turn out okay. Like, there's one play where we lost 2 yards, and we're like, look at this, bro, just standing there watching the play, doing nothing. Like, if he had a little bit of effort and just gets in this dude's way, we go from losing 2 yards to gaining 6 yards. And they're like, yeah, like we could give more effort. And there was a play where one person did the wrong thing. Like, he didn't know the play. That was a lack of discipline. We're like, look, he could have gotten like 20 or 30 yards if this other dude knew what he was doing. And these kids kind of caught the vision. And so now I'll let you guys know how this goes. But in practice, when we move from one station to another, or we go from one activity to another, we like get together and put our hands in the middle, and we're like, kick butt on three, 1, 2, 3, kick butt. And we do this cheer. I told them, guys, you only have 2 cheers that you can do for the next until we figure this crap out. You can cheer effort or you can cheer discipline. And these 15-year-old kids are all bought in. They're like, yeah, we only have to do 2 things. We got to have effort. We got to have discipline. And I think in parenting, sometimes we look at all the things that we have wrong in our lives, in our relationship, and we're like, I got 117 things I got to fix. I got like this 500 page. It is funny when the state sent me that. This is like back in the old days when you couldn't send files that were too big. It was
Mhm.
like 14 emails. Like, seriously, and you want us to do this within like the first 3 months of school? It was so overwhelming. But when we narrowed it down to 2, it gave us focus, it gave us purpose, and it felt easy to do. And it completely changed our school. And I'm really excited for this football season because these boys, they were defeated. They're like, man, how do we fix all this? When we narrowed it down to 2 and they caught the vision, they're like, oh, we can totally do this. So, Courtney, how on earth could we apply that to parenting? Now that you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, looking at all of the issues that you have with your teenager, pick the ones that are the most troublesome or most difficult to handle, or I don't know, but narrow it down. Like, don't try to solve all of your problems and narrow it down. And, like you said, subcategorize, and things will just start to fall into place, I would imagine, once some things start moving better. I don't know. How do you apply it to parenting, Ben? Because, like, I have my theory, but I'm sure you'll explain it
No,
much
I,
better.
I, I like yours. I think yours is really good. One of the things, so back when I used to do courses, which, guys, I'm going to start doing that eventually. I just haven't prioritized that yet. But I would often tell the moms that I worked with, like, you're going to hear lots of things. Just pick one thing. Like, pick the one thing that you think will give you the biggest bang for your buck. And the crazy thing is, like, I don't know how many moms I've worked with. I should go back and count. But it always, they're able to identify, oh, well, this one thing would change everything. And it's not always the same one thing. Like, I remember working with one mom, she's like, if I change my inner talk, like, she was so hard on herself. Like, she would yell at her kids and say mean things. And she's like, to tell you the truth, that's how I talk to myself in my head. She's like, I call myself an idiot all day. I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, gosh, I can't believe how fat and ugly I am. And it just broke my heart that she treated herself this way. And it made complete sense. Like, well, this is why you treat your kids poorly, because you're constantly treating yourself this way. And
Mm.
she picked, hey, that's the one thing I'm going to work on. And that completely changed everything. And she was surprised. She's like, I can't believe all the different things that it's changed. Like, I have more confidence at work. She was a teacher and she's always, it's hard being a teacher. Like, you
Yeah.
worry about what these little knuckleheads think about you and what their parents think about you. And she's like, when I had better conversations with myself, I had more confidence. I yelled at my kids less. I had a better relationship with my husband. Like when you can pick one thing and when you can identify, hey, this is the one thing that will give me the biggest bang for my buck, it's powerful because it simplifies your life. Now, for the sake of my school and for the sake of the football team, which by the way, if we go back to the school thing, the state board of education was like, Ben, you can't grade kids based on their attendance and their behavior. So, any of you guys that are listening and you're teachers and you're like, that is so illegal, you can't do that. I know they told me that too. The nice thing is, I was working for the tribe and I'm a really good salesman. If I believe in something, you're going to believe in it too. Like, if I can just have a little quick conversation, you're going to see things my way and you're going to be like, yeah, this is awesome. I had presented our findings and our plan to the governing council of the tribe. And they're like, yeah, your plan makes sense. Like, we need more of our tribal members to get jobs and be good employees. Like, go ahead, focus on those things. And then the state office calls me and they're like, no, you can't do that. I may have slightly manipulated the situation because I told the tribal business committee, I'm like, yeah, the state says we can't do that. They're just trying to tell us how to raise our kids again. Oh my goodness. They're like, oh, we will call those people. What's their phone number? Like, who is it? And the state called me back. They're like, we're sorry. We misunderstood. You can do whatever you want. Just don't have the tribe come get after us. Anyways, the thing is, like, when you can simplify it, others will also buy in. If you can simplify it, if you can believe in it, if you can be bought in, your husband will be able to understand it. He'll be like, oh, yeah, this is doable. Your teen will be able to understand it. They'll be like, oh, yeah, this is doable. Like, the cool thing about the school, we didn't just have this little secret thing as teachers and principal where we're like, okay, guys, we know we're focusing on behavior and attendance. No, it was a school wide thing. We did incentive trips, and incentive trips back when the other principals did it, it was like you had to have like a degree in calculus to decide whether or not someone could go. Cause it's like, oh, well, what about your attendance plus your behavior plus your grades plus do you have any office referrals plus this plus that plus? And it's like, no, let's just say if you have less than 80% attendance, it's a no. If you have less than this citizenship grade, the behavior portion, it's a no. All the kids knew, oh, it's attendance and behavior. And you knew we were making a change when we would get parents who would call and complain and be like, your stupid attendance program, we were going to go out of town and my kid said, no, I got to go to school. I want to go to school. Mom, take me to school. Like, everyone was bought in because of how simple it is.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, like I see, like my oldest just went off to college and I have this long laundry list of all the things that I wish he would fix and do differently. And I wish before he'd have left, I'd have had this conversation and thought, oh, let's just pick two things and make it simple, make it something that we all understand and we agree to work towards. Go ahead, Courtney.
I I was thinking when you were talking about just the fact that they're showing up more, they're learning more, you know? So they say you can't base their grade off of attendance, but the fact that they're in class, they're absorbing more. I mean, I think Williams School, they dock points off if you wear the wrong shoes to like PE or something. Like, and if you have gum, you get points off. So like if you're chewing gum and you have Crocs on, that affects your grade. So
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, when I look at the school, it was really awesome. There was a period where we were they called us a turnaround school, and I can't remember the term that they used, but we had the biggest change in graduation rate in 1 year. And that was really cool. Like, we got awards from the state, we got recognized for doing that. When we dropped our suspensions from over 200 a year to less than 20 a year, they're like, we got to send someone out because you guys aren't tracking stuff right. And they came out and they're like, dang, you guys are doing this. And people would ask me all the time, they're like, geez, Ben, you must be an amazing principal. How do you do this? And then I tell them, oh, we just focus on attendance and behavior. And they're like, no, that's too easy. Like, what's the complex formula, the secret formula that no one knows about? And I think part of that is because we live in a society and in a culture where we love to overcomplicate things. We love to
Mhm.
sound smart and inventive and like, oh, yeah, I have this new crazy thing. And when you can simplify it, that's where the real power comes in. Because I guarantee you, your teenager, when they go to school, they've got 117 things that their teachers want them to do or that they need to do for football or drama or whatever's going on. Don't add to that, simplify it. And if you can
Mhm.
find a way, like the nice thing about my football players, we're watching film and I'm like, listen, guys, effort and discipline. Like I'm your football coach, so we're focused on football. But look, how many of you guys have this coach as your teacher? And some of the kids are like, yeah, I do. Effort and discipline. How's that going to affect you in the classroom? And the kids are like, oh, well, the more effort you put into an assignment, the better you learn the thing. If you're disciplined enough to turn it in on time, you get more points. I'm like, oh, amazing. It applies there too. What about work? And these kids are too young, but I'm like, hey, you're going to have a job someday. When you have a job, how is effort and discipline going to impact where you work? And when we can help our teens, or if you're a mom and you're like, man, we have 117 things we got to fix in our family, if you can identify the two simple things that have the biggest bang, meaning not only are they going to address issues in your family, but they'll also address issues at their job, in their relationship with their friends, in their sport, you get more buy in from them. And if you pick the right ones, like I get lucky, like I was diagnosed with like ADHD and dyslexia and all sorts of things. And they like told me, like, Ben, your brain doesn't work right. It's probably why I see things differently and I can just simplify them. Like, oh, these are just two simple problems. Let's do that. Like, if you can help them start to see the world in a more simplistic way, like, oh, I feel like my world's falling apart around me. Maybe if I just do this one thing, and
Mhm.
whether that's like going to church or maybe finding a new friend group. I'm coaching a young man who's in college, and we're almost done with our coaching. And just the other week, he's like, you know what? When I go back to college, I think the biggest thing is I need better friends.
Mhm.
He's like, I have a friend group that is like an alternative friend group. They're not as cool and as fun as the other friend group. But if I just started hanging out with them, I'd get drunk less. I'd go to school more. I I'm like, dude, that's a simple fix. Like, why don't you just do that one simple thing? And he's like, I'm going to. Like, I'm not even gonna talk to those clowns. They just drag me down. Like, make it simple.
Yeah. I think even for us as parents, like you were giving the example of the mom where she started talking to herself kinder. Just us as parents narrowing down one or two things that we can fix and then having the same expectations of our teenagers. I'm sure there's a list of things that annoy us, of things that they do or say or don't do. But if we can just simplify it and only focus on those, I feel like oftentimes teenagers feel like our goals are unattainable because we have so many things we want them to fix. And so they feel
Yeah.
like they're never going to make us happy. So they're not going to make an effort. So just narrowing it down to one or two things that they can focus on, it would help them. It would help the relationship, I'm sure. Yeah, I like the idea of simplifying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I feel like part of the secret sauce that I didn't appreciate until just when you were talking, like when I talk to the football players, I put them into two little groups and I'm like, you guys identify what if there were only 2 things, what do you think the 2 things would be? And I already knew what I wanted the 2 things to be from watching film. I wanted effort, I wanted discipline. It was way cooler that the kids came up with that, and they think they're the ones that like, they don't think, "Oh, Coach Pugh was home watching film. These are the ones he wanted. In their mind, they're like, man, this is what we identified. This is what we need to fix. And the cool thing is, when we did the survey for the kids, like at my school when I was principal, like, are you working? Are you not working? Like, they weren't intentionally trying to help us find a solution. Like, they didn't know they were a part of that. But you can see how we looped them in and empowered them, and they did help us come up with solutions. And I feel like we live in a society that's very prescriptive. Like, hey, you need to do this. And look, I'm your parent. I'm way smarter than you. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. If you can empower your teen, if you could be like maybe just facilitate the conversation, like, man, you're struggling with your girlfriend, you're struggling at school, you're struggling with this and this. Like, what's one thing that would help improve all of these things? And if your teen is like my teen, you ask them that question and they're going to say IDK. Or I don't know, like, it's just gonna be something stupid, but that's okay. You planted a seed, give them time to think, and then maybe revisit it later. Hey, have you thought of just one thing that might help improve it? And just be persistent, but you don't have to, like, force them to come up with a beautiful answer. I don't know is okay. At least you planted a seed.
Hmm. And they might think about it and they might do something differently and they probably won't tell you, but
Yeah,
they might try.
yeah. You know, there are so many places I could apply this in my current life. I feel like I am unintentionally, like, in solar right now. I'm like, I don't have time to go knock doors. I don't have time to do all this other stuff. What is one thing that would help that whole component of my life improve? And so, like, right now, I'm running anyone listening, if you live in the basin, you've possibly heard me on the radio. I'm running radio ads. I'm getting interviewed on the local radio because we're already running Facebook ads. And I'm like, what's one thing I could do that will help the whole big picture? Yeah, I'm going to apply this to more areas of my life. I just need time to explore it.
Good. Well, I'm glad we could help you out today.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming to this podcast. As an ENFP, I don't know what's going on in my life until I think about it. Actually, I have a hard time coming up with solutions until I can talk to someone about it. And this podcast probably benefits me more than it benefits you guys. So thank you for giving me a place where I can talk. And Courtney, thanks for being here so I don't have to talk to myself like I normally.
Always. Yeah. Anytime.
Okay, well, anything you want to add before we let the good people go?
Oh, I think that's good. We'll keep it simple. The theme of the day.
Yeah, keep it simple because guess what? Your teens, they're simple minded creatures. Okay.
Heck yeah. No, they are.
I think all people are. We just try and pretend that we're way more complicated and complex than we really are. But
Yeah.
okay, and know who else is a simple creature? All you mothers out there listening, all you wives, I guarantee you, your husband is a simple creature. As a husband, like, I feel like sometimes when me and Deb like have disagreements, she thinks that I've thought about it way more, and I'm like, no, I haven't thought of that at all. So just,
Bless her heart.
I know, seriously.
Hmm.
And you got to see her today before we hit record.
I
So
know. What a wonderful lady.
she is, and she's a saint because she puts up with me. So,
That's what I mean. Yes.
okay, guys. Well, we will be back next week. I'll for sure be back. I don't always know until the day of with Courtney because I forget to text sometimes. So sometimes if Courtney's not here, it's usually my fault and I forgot to coordinate with her beforehand. But I think we'll be back next week, right, Courtney?
Yeah, that's kind of you for taking responsibility for that. But no, I'm going to set my alerts like to do the day before and then maybe a couple the day of.
If I had a personal assistant, her number one job would be, hey, make sure me and Courtney's schedule aligns on one day so we can record a podcast.
That's
But
all you would use your personal assistant for.
no, that would be her main job.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll work out. I'll simplify a way that I can make sure it works every Friday.
Okay, we'll be back on Friday, unless we're not, in which case I'll be back. But anyways, okay, see y'all next week.
Bye.